Many people in our culture today know the Lord's Prayer, but was it really the Lord's Prayer? Hey, stay tuned to find out what I mean in today's Bible study. Hi, this is Pastor Mark Pierce with Church Requel, and it's just great to have you here with me today. Our topic today, again, is the model prayer, what many people know as the Lord's Prayer. As you can see, once again, I'm at a beautiful location. This is Kingwood Center, and it is a very hot day today, but I have found me two things that I love, and that is a bench and a little bit of shade. So I hope that you can pull up a chair with me today and just enjoy our Bible study together. If you have your Bible, take a look at Matthew chapter 6, and we're just going to read through what is known as the Lord's Prayer, beginning in verse 9, reading through verse 13. Matthew 6, beginning in verse 9. Pray then like this: Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Now, you've heard this prayer before, right? If you attend many different churches, you will have repeated it probably every single week. Sometimes you'll be at a family gathering and have repeated it. Or maybe you will have been at a funeral someplace, and have said this prayer with many other people. If someone says, well, let's repeat together the Lord's Prayer, well, you know what they mean, right? And you'll immediately begin reciting Our Father who art in heaven. Sadly, many people have heard this prayer and have repeated this prayer so many different times that it really has lost all meaning, that people don't even think about what it is that they are praying when they say the prayer. It literally becomes, for many people, the meaningless babble, or the heaping up of meaningless phrases that Jesus had just warned about in the two verses prior. The key for us, I think, is found at the very beginning of verse 9, in the very first half of the verse. I'll give you a moment just to take a look at it in your own Bible. What does the first half of verse 9 say, if you have it there? In my version, in my Bible, it says, pray then like this. The Good News Translation puts it this way: this is how you should pray. But many people act as if what this really says is this is what you should pray. In other words, they have memorized the Lord's Prayer, and they take this as this is literally what they should be praying word for word. In fact, most people know it, including myself, more as the King James translation puts it than any other particular version. Now, clearly, when we take a look, though, at verse 9 at the beginning, Jesus has in mind here setting an example for us, setting a model that we should be following. He's giving his disciples a model to follow. In fact, if we were to take a look at the Luke translation, which we would find in chapter 11, in the very first verse, Luke 11:1, the subject matter begins like this, where the disciples are going to Jesus and they're saying, Jesus, Lord, teach us how to pray. In fact, we see that Jesus had just finished praying. And not only that, but they also were saying, hey, teach us to pray like John taught his own disciples to pray. In other words, this is the kind of thing that you should be doing, is helping us know how to go about this. So if we were to take a look at this model prayer, at this disciples' prayer, I think if we break it down, we find that there really are 6 different parts to this prayer. And just to help me remember it, I use 6 different P's to put it together. There's praise, purpose, provision, pardon, people, and protection. Let me break that down for you a little bit more. There's praise. I begin by expressing my love to God. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Holy is your name. So I start with praise. Secondly, I go with purpose. I express my purpose. I commit myself to God's will and to His purpose in my life. Do you see it there? Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Not only do we see praise and purpose, but we also see provision. I ask God to provide for my needs. Jesus puts it this way: give us today our daily bread. Give us what we need to eat to survive. Fourth, we see pardon. We see Jesus setting the example to ask for pardon. I ask God to forgive my sins. Forgive us our debts, or forgive us our trespasses. Next, we see that we are to pray for people. I pray for other people. How do we get that here? Well, because I say to the Lord, forgive us our debts as what? We forgive our debtors, or those who have trespassed against us. In other words, who is this? This is other people. And as is true in almost every culture, every society, every family, there's always people who just kind of rub us the wrong way. Well, Jesus has made clear that these are the kind of folks that we should be praying for. And then we get to the last part of the prayer, and that is the prayer for protection. I ask for spiritual protection from God. Jesus put it this way: and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from the evil one. So, praise, purpose, provision, pardon, people, protection. Now, I don't want to take anything away from the Lord's Prayer. Quite frankly, I don't necessarily remember all those P's all the time, but I do remember the Lord's Prayer. And obviously, we need to spend a lot more time on each one of these areas. So we're going to camp out here for the next week and talk about each one of them one at a time. But before we get to that, let me just end with one concluding thought. What a great example of a good use, and perhaps for some people, a bad use of a pre-written prayer. Surely no one would criticize this prayer as it's authored by the Lord Himself. But it would certainly be possible, as we've already made mention, to misuse this prayer, to say it in a babbling, non-thinking, repetitive way. And I don't think that's what Jesus had in mind here. But what if we were to use this memorized prayer as our model to launch into a much more intimate conversation with God? Quite frankly, I probably won't always remember praise, purpose, provision, pardon, people, protection, even though every single one of them began with a P. Good for preachers to, do that kind of thing. But, I already know the Lord's Prayer, right? And you probably already know the Lord's Prayer. You could probably say that prayer. Well, why not use that as a model? I start off, Our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Well, that tells me right away, I need to be praising God. I need to be saying, what is it about God that is so holy? And I lift Him up. I start by giving Him honor. And then I go on to the next part of the prayer, and each time I get to another part, I stop and I think to myself, what is that saying to me? What is that meaning for me right now? And how can I take this memorized prayer and use it as a launching platform to have this intimate conversation with God? Hey, if you haven't tried that yet, try it. I think you'll find that it works really, really, really well. It certainly does for me. Tomorrow, we're going to take a look at the first part of the prayer. The title is God is God and I am not. I don't know about you, but that's a very freeing thing. So thanks for joining me, and I look forward to talking to you again tomorrow.